It is good to be with you this morning. Good to see everyone here. Appreciate you being with us, and we are always encouraged by this. As we were just reading in Romans chapter 1, that Paul was going to be encouraged by them when he went there, and they were going to be encouraged by him. You have both going both ways. He's encouraged, they're encouraged. And it is the same, always the same, when we're talking about Christians getting together. This morning we're going to be looking in Hebrews chapter 12. Now we just had a class, that class ended a few weeks ago, just had a class on the book of Hebrews, but this is something that we need to bring out because it is a passage that I don't think I've ever spoken of as far as a sermon is concerned, but Hebrews chapter 12, and beginning in verse 1, and it starts with the word therefore. So it is speaking about everything that we've learned prior to this verse, or at least something prior to this verse. And of course, that is all that we have gained from the Hebrews writer, speaking of faith. Going through Hebrews chapter 11 is this list of individuals who were faithful to God. And there are some in there. Enoch is one, Pharaoh is another. There's some in there that were not faithful to God. But it is a list of those who were faithful to God and what they did. By faith, this person did this, which they were commanded to do. And before we get to chapter 11, really in chapter 10 and verse 22, begins that section on faith. Going into chapter 11, and now into chapter 12, we have a therefore. It is a conclusion. It is a conclusion because of all this information that we have gained. There is a conclusion from this. There's a conclusion for having all of those examples given to us. That means something was implied. There's a message there that comes to us that we conclude. Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Therefore, we also, now the writer of Hebrews puts himself in there, and don't think that I think I know who the writer of Hebrews is. I don't. And I don't even pretend to say that I do. You can't know. But we have this. We also, whoever wrote this, putting themselves into it as well. Since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, there are three things that we want to bring out just in this verse. One is that cloud of witnesses. What is that? That word witness does mean someone who is watching, but it also means someone who does give testimony. It is someone who who is giving you something that you may need, like a witness would be in a trial. We're surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. Well, who's he even talking about? Well, in chapter 11, he's talking about those individuals that had faith. We have Abel, Enoch, Noah, Abraham, Sarah, then going on to Moses, actually Moses' parents, and then to Moses, and need to mention Isaac and Jacob in there as well. And going through all that and going to Rahab, all of these individuals having faith. Well, are they witnesses to us on this earth? And the answer to that would be no. I cannot say that they can see anything on this earth. They have passed on. They're not on this earth anymore. I can't say that they can see anything happening on this earth. So what does it mean? It means we have a great cloud of examples. We have a great cloud of those who are giving testimony concerning the promises of God. Giving testimony concerning if you follow those promises, this is what happens. Giving that testimony of their faith, that their faith, having faith in God, works. And it works in every age And every time, in every generation, in every nation, every person who tries it, it works. We are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. Now, granted, in 1 Corinthians chapter 4, 9 and 10, Paul speaks of the apostles as being a spectacle to the world and also to angels. And one could see, the world sees them as being a spectacle. And that meant, in the context of it, of the hardships that the apostles had gone through. And all the troubles and all the trials and all the things that they had gone through. But there's also that of the blessings, that of the faith that continued, that of being firm with God, being firm. But this great cloud of witnesses that comes with this, therefore, with everything that we've heard thus far, everything that we've learned thus far, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, that would have to be those that have been mentioned. And what are they giving testimony to? We've already made mention of it, but it is a witness to the promise of God and a witness of faith, and that it works. And when I mean that it works, I mean it in both ways that you could take it. One, that yes, it is successful in that way it works. But also in that it works is that it does the work of God. Show me one single person in chapter 11 that didn't have to do something. They believed in God. And some of them went through terrible trials. Others, still trials, but not as bad. I mean, let's face it. Job had a far greater trial given to him than Moses. Is that unfair? No, it's not unfair. God gives as He sees fit, and He also knows He's not going to put anything on us, and we can know it as well. He's not going to put anything on us that we can't bear, and we can just rest on that. Something terrible can come around toward us, and we can know God would not have this on my shoulders if He thought I couldn't bear it. So I move on. I go on and I take care of it. I go on and I live with it. I go on, whatever it is, continuing faith with Him. But since we have this this image here of a cloud that we see before us, well, actually, you can think of it as being surrounded by so many of the past who have lived faithful, and also in the present. We can bring that in the present, that those who are living faithful, they live by trusting the promises of God, and we can see how God has blessed them. Now, we can't understand everything in everybody's life. There's no way that we can. So going by Scripture, especially like a place like Hebrews 11, we can know for certain concerning these people's faith. Let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us. Every weight. Let's start there first. It makes no sense to, I don't know if you know who these people are. I barely do. I've just seen like videos while going through a store or something like that. I think they're called the piano guys. I don't know what they are, but they always seem to have put a grand piano in some impossible place, like on the top of some mountain, and someone is playing the piano there. Okay, fantastic. You got it. But who goes hiking? Who goes mountain climbing with a grand piano? I can tell you, they got it there by helicopter. I mean, there's no other way that they could have done it, even if it's real. And I have my doubts they're even real, but I don't know. But no one goes hiking carrying a grand piano unless you have some crazy thing you're doing. In all practicality, I've never gone, down a trail and see people carrying carrying furniture. That you want to remove the weight you don't need. You want to be rid of things you don't need for the trail. You take what you do need. You need water. You need food. You may need medicine. You may need these other things for whatever that may occur. But There's things you don't have to take. But in this life, people can be hauling a trainload of baggage. And how are they possibly going to run this race with endurance? They can't run anywhere. There's weights that can be on us, and the weights may be something that seem innocent enough, but if they take us away from God, it's not innocent. It could be job, it could be family members, it could be that of friends, it could be things that we just happen that take our interest, things that we just get caught up in and then realize, this really is not very productive and it's not helpful, and why am I even doing it? Okay. Things that can take our interest and take us bit by bit away from God. But we don't need, if we are running a race, which we are, that's what we're supposed to do, then we must lay aside every weight and run for the prize. Run for the end. Run with endurance. And to run with endurance means that it's going to take a while. Of course, we don't know how long that is. Some will be quicker than others. But it is a run that is going to take a while. Now, we come to these next words in this, the sin which so easily ensnares us. Now, the writer is putting himself in this. The writer is saying, that he himself is taken by sin, that he's ensnared by it, and that sin has no problem if we can make sin into an animal or sin into some kind of creature. That sin has no problem ensnaring us. No problem at all. We can get caught up in it, and it's just easily done, day by day by day. And what is the writer telling us? The writer is saying we get rid of the weight, we get rid of that sin. We get rid of it. And yes, there are some sins that are easier to take care of than others. There are some sins that just by their very nature are easy to take care of. We can just stop. There are others that carry it's more of a profound effect on us, on the human soul, and it takes more of an effort. This has taken us deeper. This has taken us further. This has a greater effect on us, and this takes longer to take care of. It may always be a problem in our life. As it is said, once an alcoholic, you're going to live as an alcoholic. One may have not taken a drink in 30 years, but that alcoholic is still an alcoholic. And that it will still have its effect. Once returning back to it, it will still have its effect. Now, sin easily ensnares us. Now we have these words, let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. God has set a race for us, and it is the Christian life. And it is regardless of, we can call it terrain, regardless of obstacles, regardless of what's in the way, we continue in that race. If the race is on flat ground, it's easy. But sometimes the race is uphill. Sometimes it is, the weather's not so good. Sometimes the weather is just fine. Nevertheless, we have a race that must be run. If we just go with the life of Paul, no doubt there were times when the life of Paul was relatively easy. And his serving in places such as Corinth, while at the beginning that was rough. At the beginning, being dragged into the courts, that was kind of rough. But later, he's able to stay there and he's able to teach for a significant period of time. He's able to do that. And there wouldn't have been as much problem there. But Paul going into Jerusalem, there was always an issue there. There was always someone that wanted him dead. All right, not everything was going to be easy for him. Not everything's going to be easy for us. And this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And we run with endurance. And unless, you do see these people that they have trained and they've trained and they've trained and they run these things all the time and they go running marathons and they start off with the sprint and they end with the sprint. All right, they've been training for that. They've been training for it, and they've been training a long time, and they have that's what they've been doing. Okay. With us, we need the strength too. And we need the strength and that endurance that we continue on. That endurance that we continue in this race. And it means remaining faithful to God. It means continuing in His work. That we may, everybody changes. Everybody in their life changes. Going from a small child all the way to the end of your life. Everybody changes. And we have certain things on our side younger, then growing older, having more things on our side of good health, of abilities of all sorts, and things that come our way of all sorts that we can take care of, and then continuing on, and it changes. We don't have those same abilities, but we may have some other thing that's come our way that we didn't have earlier. It's always changing, and wherever we are in life, we can do some work for God. We can do something for Him. We can do something. Now, with the parable of the talents, you have the master who has 3 servants. One is given 5 talents. One's given 2 talents. And one's given 1 talent. Okay. Master leaves. He's going to return. It's understood he's going to return. And he expects to see something have been accomplished. It is expected. Why would he give it to his servants if he didn't expect something to be done with it? Why would he do it? If he wanted it just kept safe and nothing happened other than just being kept safe, he would have just set it with a bank. He would have just set it where it would be thoroughly secured, and that would be that. But he doesn't. He gives it to his servants because he expects them to do something. Now let's talk about the servants just for a moment. Man with the 5 talents, where did he get those 5 talents? From the master. Man with the 2, where did he get that? From the master. The 1, same source, the master. Same source. Man with the 5 talents isn't to look down his nose at the other 2 because he didn't earn them. They're given to him. Man with the 1 talent isn't to envy the others because they have more. They didn't earn them. It was given to them, just as the 1 talent was given to that man. Now, each does what they're going to do, and then the master returns and judges their work. Now, as it happens in the parable, the man with the 5 talents, the man with the 2 talents, they have in fact doubled what they had been given. They had been steadily working. The man with the 1 just hid the talent, kept it safe, and returns it back to the master, which is exactly what he didn't want to occur. He didn't want that, and he calls him wicked and lazy. Wicked and lazy. And the fact of the matter is that I seldom have ever seen or come across a one-talent person. Seldom have I seen such a thing. Mostly, I see multi-talented, no, always I see multi-talented people. And the problem is, a person can have 5 talents and still do nothing with those 5 talents. A man can have 5 talents and do nothing with them. Well, how is the master going to be happy with that? He's not. He's not going to be happy with that at all. This is all part of that lifetime. It's all part of that race we have of where God expects something to have been accomplished at the end. He expects to see something to have been done at the end. Doing something for Him. And His judgment is going to be precisely as Jesus gave in that parable. And I can just imagine in my mind of the one-talent man having hidden that talent through however many years it was, thinking, putting himself to bed at night, thinking that he hoped the master would be okay, that he's not doing anything with the talent. Night after night, year after year, hoping that the master would be okay when he returned and what he would say to the master when he came back. That's a terrible way to live. Matter of fact, it would have been easier just to have done something than to have lived like that. It would have been easier just to have done what the master wanted. And all of this has to do with running the race set before us. Every bit of it. Now we go to verse 2. So we're in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before Him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Let's look at this verse just bit by bit. There's some things we want to bring out in this. Looking unto Jesus. Now, with all those examples that were given, examples of faith that were given in chapter 11, now comes the greatest example, and that's Christ. The writer of Hebrews isn't finished talking about faith when he ends chapter 11. He's continuing it. And the implication is that we follow the faith of others. We follow the faith of these that actually had faith. We follow them. Now, by principle, in the things that God called them to do, God calls us to do something. He doesn't call us to build an ark. That was for Noah. That was for one time. He doesn't call us to leave Ur of the Chaldeans. That was for Abraham. That was one time. But He does call us to obedience, and obedience that demands action. It demands something out of us. The Great Commission is there for a reason. Teaching others has been given to us. That is an obligation. That's something that has been given to us. That's what we should be doing. That's one thing. That's one thing. But also bearing one another's burdens, so fulfill the law of Christ. That's another thing that we have been given. We look to see how God wants us to live our life. And yes, when we see this of living faithful to Him, that we do need to be rid of the weight that slows us down, that trips us up. We do need to be rid of that sin that so easily ensnares us. And here we look to this greatest example, which is called, He is called the author and finisher of our faith. As Paul states, follow me as I follow Christ. Now, he could have said it in a different way, and it would have been just as correct, and that is, follow Christ. He didn't say, follow me in everything that I do, because there are things that Paul did that, and I can't tell you what they were. I just know he's another man. I know he's fallible. I know he has his problems just like the rest of us. All right, there would be certain things that Paul would have done, especially prior to Acts chapter 9. You don't want to follow that example. You don't want to be part of that. But follow me, imitate me as I also imitate Christ. Imitate Christ is what it comes down to. And here is this looking unto Jesus. Here is this faith. The one who is the author and the finisher. That is, he began it and he accomplished it. He designed it. It's part of the Godhead. And he did it. One can call him the Alpha and the Omega. He does, the beginning and the end. We can put it in here as well, the author and the finisher of the faith. This faith, the gospel of Christ, was in the mind of God from everlasting. Everlasting. That's a long time before we get to a point where God says, let there be light. That's a long time. And using the word long is the only word I can use. It's the only word I can use. But it was in the mind of God from everlasting. In due time, Christ died for the ungodly. In due time, Christ came on this earth. In due time, Christ died on the cross. In due time. So that he's the author, he was there as part of the Godhead from eternity. There it was, the author of the faith, and he's also the finisher of the faith. He came to this earth and he accomplished it. He came to this earth and he did it. As we have said on numerous occasions, nobody on the day of judgment can face Christ and say, you don't know what it's like to be human. You never left the throne of God. You never left heaven. You talk about an ivory tower. You never left there. You have no idea what it's like. They can't say that because he was here. And he wasn't born in a palace. He wasn't born surrounded by palace guards. He wasn't here as someone who was treated like a king or treated like nobility, even though he was going to be crowned and now is crowned. Born as Son of Man, born as Son of God. Of the seed of woman, he was here on this earth, a man acquainted with grief. By his stripes we are healed. He went through everything, tempted in every way as we are, yet without sin. He went through everything. He knows firsthand what it is like to be human. He knows what troubles us firsthand. He knows what it is like firsthand. He has suffered hunger. He has suffered beatings. He has suffered humiliation. He has suffered the cross and death. None of that could be said prior to him coming to this earth. None of it could be said, but he's done it. He has done it. And being that finisher of our faith, that's how it is done. Sure, we can look to Abel and Enoch and Noah and Abraham, going all the way to where it mentions that of Barak, Samson, Gideon, Jephthah, David, Samuel, and the prophets. Mentioning them, we could look toward them concerning faith, but here we have the greatest one. David made his mistakes. Jephthah made his mistakes. Gideon made his mistakes. Abraham made his mistakes. Christ, sinless. Absolutely sinless. He's the one who died for us. The others did not. The others, we can follow their example. They didn't die for us. Christ, in fact, did. He is the author and the finisher of our faith. Now we come to these next words. Who for the joy that was set before him. The joy set before him endured the cross. What joy could there possibly have been? I can go and I can look at the text of Christ praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, moments before he's about to be arrested. Moments, I mean, he has time to spend there, but really the clock is ticking to the minute of where here comes Judas and all these others carrying weapons. They've come to arrest Christ. I can look there and see where he is in deep sorrow. He is in a tremendous amount of agony and grief. And no one has even touched him yet, but he knows what's about to happen. He knows what's about to happen, and he is praying, and he is praying like no one else has ever prayed. Nobody. He is praying that if this could be taken away, let it be taken away. Nevertheless, your will is done. And God's will is done. So where's the joy here? Where's the joy? Because he's about to be scourged. What's the joy in that? He knows it. He's about to be utterly, publicly humiliated, justice stripped away. Men who were supposedly backing the law, breaking it repeatedly to get him on the cross and dead. Where is the joy in this? The joy is you. And I'm in there too. The joy is all of us. The joy was having us, humanity, at least part of it anyway, because not everybody is going to be obedient to God. Not everybody's going to do it. But part of us, anyway, being in heaven. He wants that? Yes. If he didn't want that, well then, first off, why create us to begin with? Number two, why do anything to save us? Yes, there is the joy. The joy was not just that of sitting at the right hand of God. Where's he been? Where was he before he came to this earth? He was in heaven. He was part of the Godhead. Yeah, he's there. That's not so much the joy. Yeah, definitely going back there was good. There's no doubt about that. But the joy was that sins could be taken away. Because what he did, no sacrifice, no other sacrifice could take away the sins of anyone. Not done by high priest, not done by Moses in his day, not done by Aaron in his day, not done by Abraham in his day. No bull, goat, lamb, ram, nothing, no sacrifice could take away the sins of the world except the Son of God on the cross. None. And in this, he has joy for that very reason, that it was being accomplished. What had been in the mind of God from the beginning of time, before the beginning of time, from eternity, is now being accomplished in due time. It's being accomplished. And everything that the prophets look toward and the faithful look toward had been accomplished. Now we're way on this side of the cross. It's been done. Now we don't look forward to what he's going to do to save us. That's already been accomplished. We just need to be obedient to it. We're now looking forward to him returning to this earth. Looking forward for him returning and judgment and eternity in heaven. There's the hope. That is our joy anyway. That is our joy. His was, with that he despised the shame. He's going to live through it. He's going to do it. For us, he's going to do it. And the cross as a means of torture. Matter of fact, that reminds me. While at PTP, I saw a quote I'd never seen before. It was by a Roman writer, as a matter of fact. I'm not sure that he was a Christian, but he was talking about Jesus of Nazareth. Roman writer, a quote I'd never seen before, and he described that, first off described what a person went through on the cross. Of course, he had never been on the cross, but he had witnessed crucifixions before. And then he said, no one would willingly put themselves on the cross unless they wanted to. That is, they have a mission to accomplish. No one would volunteer for that. You would take, if you were going to be put to death, you would take almost anything else. Lop off my head now. Just stab me. Chop me in two. Whatever it is. But the cross was meant to be a prolonged death. And it's meant to be humiliating because you were put in public places. You're nailed to the cross and you are, like here, you have a mass of crowd around Jesus and those thieves. They're being crucified publicly. And the Romans wanted it to be public because the Romans didn't want lawbreakers. Now, obviously, they had laws where you wouldn't be put to death and you wouldn't be crucified, but they had capital punishment. And there were things that, you do these things, we're going to crucify you. And they want everyone kept in line. And I think that it would have done be very effective. You see, someone being crucified, you would not want that. You would not want that. But what this writer was saying is that no one would just opt for that unless they really had a mission behind it. Unless they had something it's just love. It's just love in that. Now, there's a joy. He sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Crowned King. Jesus is different. That Son of God, the Word of God, as John describes him in John chapter 1, is different from prior to the cross and after the cross. Still, from eternity, still deity, yes. But now, after the cross, he can say, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. It's all been given to him. And he is crowned king in heaven with a kingdom upon this earth which shall never be destroyed. And those words still are true. It's never been destroyed. He sits down at the right hand of the throne of God as promised in Psalm 110. And he has authority and he has power. Right now he's our Savior. Right now he can be your advocate. And for a Christian, for someone who is one of his, He is their advocate. He's the advocate of every Christian. Right now, He sends out the gospel call. He sends out that gospel that is the power of God to salvation. It is that call. Now there is mercy. Now there is forbearance. Now there is an opportunity to obey Him. But there comes a point when He's judge, and He will judge everyone. Everyone who has ever existed in time, and that would be all of humanity. Now, He's already judged Satan, and it's already been determined. Hell is created for Satan and his angels. That's already been determined. That's made for them. It's not made for them to rule. It's not made for them to be warden and guards. They're prisoners. And we don't have to be there with them. It's made for them, but the wicked of humanity will be cast away with them as well. Cast away forever. They will live forever. That is, Satan and all those angels following him, they will live forever, and they will be in hell. Our souls will live forever. And if we're cast away in hell, that's the way it is. It's always forever in hell. And there is no dealing with it. There will be, regardless of how evil someone may be, or how tough someone may be, or even Satan himself. Satan doesn't want to be there. And no demon wants to be there. And we don't want to be there either. And Christ has given us the way out of that. And it is now, while we are here. We read our first verse again, Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. Therefore we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. The way is set. Every weight, that stops us. What God gives us, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. We can handle that burden. We can handle that weight. Matter of fact, that's the very stuff that helps us get through. It's His light and easy burden and yoke. It's His, and it's custom made for us. We ask this morning of looking into the Word of God and coming to your own conclusion, coming to your own therefore. Because of this, because I know this, therefore I will do this. And every single one of us has the ability to choose. We're all free moral agents. Humanity is unique from the rest of nature in that animals don't choose morally. It's not anything for them. A wolf will eat a sheep, and it's, while the shepherd may not like it, the wolf is just eating. That's all it's doing. But mankind, we are different, and we are judged by our actions. And we can choose what we're going to do. And we need to choose Christ. We must choose Him. Any other decision, and it's your decision, and you're going to face the consequences of that decision. But Christ is here to keep us from that. Christ is here so that we can have hope. Christ is here so that we can have salvation, and He has provided it all. And we ask this morning, if you need to respond to the invitation, that you please come as we stand and sing.